being human is that we have the ability to create, we have the ability to manifest, express ideas. We are able to experience a huge range of emotions, and we are communicators and storytellers. So I believe that we have the ability to shape and change our life with stories, and we are experiencing and exploring life not just through our physical bodies, but also spiritually and emotionally. The most important aspect of being human is the ability that we are able to create and make positive differences in the world. So I feel the way of doing this is by connecting with others and sharing our truths and our stories, and also inspiring others to step up and do the same in their own unique way.
Welcome to the On Being Human podcast, where we believe transforming ourselves can positively transform society. Your host, Brandy Fleck, has the honor of exploring the human condition with real people who bravely share their personal stories of adversity, healing, joy, and more. If you're seeking empowerment, strength, and inspiration, listen in to engage and explore tough topics that help us humanize one another, understand ourselves better, spread love, and connect.
Welcome back this week to the On Being Human podcast. I'm your host, Brandy Fleck. This week's episode is one of the most intimate storytelling episodes we've done. Guest Erin Grace is a healer, traveler, blogger, and the face behind Storybones, an online resource for recognizing your trauma and healing it. Erin hails from New South Wales, Australia. From her heart, Erin tells us about a life of being unseen and the excruciating pain it caused. She talks about the trauma resulting from becoming enmeshed in close relationships, causing your identity to become unclear. Erin talks about symptoms of trauma from her own personal experience, such as dissociation, anxiety, and depression, but also tells us how she started to heal, continues to heal, and how she helps others through energy healing and spiritual healing. You get insight into recognizing and stopping destructive behaviors that you might engage in. If you're not sure where those behaviors come from or how to stop those patterns, Erin gives you advice for how to surrender and stop running from the pain. You'll also learn how to start listening to yourself, how to tap into your own intuition, how to call on universal energy for healing, and how to change the stories you've believed about yourself throughout your life and past lives so that you can step into your own power. Erin serves as a great example of self-awareness, taking responsibility to change her own life and progress. We start today's episode with Erin telling her personal story before diving into the interview. Subscribe to the On Being Human podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Help us out by leaving a rating and review. You can also find this episode at onbeinghumanpodcast.com/episodes/039, where you'll find links that Erin mentions throughout this episode. Want more love? Visit onbeinghumanpodcast.com and sign up with your name and email address, and I'll send you a free gift. It's a personal mantra that I use daily, and I promise no spam whatsoever. Just one little mantra with a big impact. You can also join in the conversation with us on Facebook. That's at On Being Human Podcast. Now, here's Erin.
So a lot of the pain, deep pain that I experienced growing up, it took me a long time to understand where this came from and why I felt this way. My biggest thing growing up was that I had a lot of shame and always a feeling invisible, of not being seen or validated for who I truly am as a person. So for me, there felt a huge amount of shame. There was always a voice in my head telling me I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy. This was a story that I carried for a long time. And I felt like even even if I did speak up, that what I had to say wasn't important and it didn't matter. And I felt that even if I tried to, I would be repressed. So I guess I felt, what was the point? So I feel this really contributed a lot to my mental health conditions and my anxiety and depression. And I guess I had a lot of shame as well, because I didn't feel like I remembered much of my childhood and early adolescence. I thought it was quite weird, and I would only remember like random snippets and fragments. I felt quite incomplete. I didn't feel like I was whole within myself, and I was not able to piece a lot together for a long time. So for me, I felt like parts of me were missing, and that I was kind of off, floating around elsewhere. I didn't feel ever grounded in myself. I felt very disconnected from myself and my body, and often I felt kind of like an intruder of my own life. I didn't feel I had a sense of identity, and also for me, I didn't know how to create healthy relationship boundaries. So that was a thing that really influenced all areas of my life, relationships, to work, to friendships, to sex, or every aspect of my life that really, really controlled. So I became very self-sabotaging. So I felt like my life was it was always in a bit of a state of turmoil, a lot of anxiety and depression. So because I was really sensitive and pain really affects me on such a deep level, I learned to dissociate from a young age. So that's where you disconnect from your body, really. So your feelings and sense of identity. So that can be really dangerous if you don't know how to work with that, and you kind of become disconnected always from yourself. And often you don't even know you're doing it. It took me until I didn't even know what this was, or I only realized this 3 years ago, when it was quite confronting for me to realize that I had been not present for so long. I felt that I grew up very vulnerable and really kind of unable to protect myself in the world. Another reason for this as well was I feel growing up in a very close-knit family, and I became very dependent from a very young age on another family member. When you become dependent with someone, you can really become enmeshed with this person, and this is pretty common, I think, in families and definitely in intimate relationships. And often you're not able to see how damaging this can be, because the two people may not be able to form their own identities. And me being the youngest, I didn't feel like I was able to be free and be my own person. I felt quite controlled and manipulated for a lot of my life, and I felt like if I tried to express myself, I was put down and made to feel that it wasn't good enough. And then if I tried to challenge and fight back, I felt like I was always shut down and things were always my fault. So I became very fearful of speaking up. And I guess I just felt it was best to keep quiet and try to stay small. Yeah, I didn't feel that I was truly seen for who I was, and I had this painful longing to just have this freedom to express myself. But I didn't feel safe to do so for a very long time. It was quite shocking for me to realize that I actually became quite manipulative myself, and because I felt that I was so not able to express myself and be myself for my whole life, I had this huge fear of being controlled and manipulated. And I guess my way of protecting myself was to self-sabotage and to create turmoil and drama in these relationships. I was so terrified of showing my vulnerabilities to anyone, because in the past they had been rejected. So I would try to hurt people and push them away before they hurt me. So it was a really damaging pattern, and it caused a lot of pain to myself and others. And it took me a very, very long time to work through this, and intimate relationships are one of my biggest triggers. So I did, make a decision to be on my own and work through this and feel whole within myself and comfortable before I feel ready to be intimate with someone again. So yeah, this has really been a huge influence over my whole life. And I always felt like something was wrong with me, like, why am I this way? Why can't I just be normal and stop doing these behaviors and patterns and hurting people? I always knew inside that I'm a good person, like, why am I doing this? But it was because I hadn't dealt with the trauma, and I was unable to put pieces together and understand that in my early teens and 20s I turned to drinking and drugs and sex to numb out the pain I was experiencing. So I would also have blackouts and go into states of psychosis when I would wake up with no recollection of what I had done the night before. And then when I was told about my actions, it caused tremendous shame and guilt, and that often sent me really spiraling into deep depression and created a lot of pain in my life, because at times I felt like there was two separate people, you know, like I felt like there was this good person who's doing good things and kind and gentle and generous and caring, but then there's this other side of me that would, because of trauma, I would just I felt like this monster, and I guess I shocked myself a lot of the times that how could I act that way. So there was constant shame and a lot of pain in that. And yeah, it took me a lot to work through that. By my late 20s, I knew I couldn't keep going this way. I wanted to put an end to the shame and all the pain I was living in. So I really had to make the decision to face myself and commit to change. And it was really difficult to challenge some of these patterns and confront some things. So I had to really shift my entire thought process, the way I felt about myself. I had to work with many counselors and healers, and I was on medication for a long time. And also just, getting to know myself. I had to start learning what was important to me, how I like to express myself, who I was, because it took me a long time to have my own identity. So, who was Erin? Who is she, and what brings her joy, and how do I honor myself and learn to trust myself rather than constantly being influenced by others. So for me it was really huge, and I had to make some big changes and cut myself off from people, and I had to learn to create healthy boundaries and learn to respect and honor myself and my body. It took me until 30 for me to learn to be truly present in my body and to create space to feel safe, to stay and to feel whole and complete. So it's rare now that I dissociate for extended periods. But when I notice I'm being triggered, I definitely have strategies, grounding strategies and things in place to bring myself back into my body and feel safe again. So really for me, it is a constant lifelong journey. It's something that I'll always have to work on, and I still sometimes have that deep pain, or I can be triggered, or I'll have random fragments of memories or flashbacks that don't make sense, or really dark dreams and chronic pain in my body, which is on a really a cellular level. So I have to manage every day, and for me, I have to really put the effort in to do my morning routine, to honor myself, to be in nature, to do the things that are important to me, because that's my healing and it's really essential in my life. So I want to stress that it's not just like one day you feel, okay, I'm all good now. It takes constant work in yourself, and you have to have that dedication and be willing to do the work.
Today, I want to welcome Erin Grace to the show. How are you doing today? I'm so happy to have you here.
Hi, Brandy. Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, this is going to be a fun episode, and I just want to dive right in and have you introduce yourself to the listeners and tell us who you are, what you do, and what is your background.
Okay, that is a big question. So I live in the beautiful Blue Mountains, which is about 2 hours west from Sydney. And I'm very much involved in nature. I love living here because it's such a beautiful place and there's so much inspiration here, and it's a really creative and beautiful community. So I'm a writer and a creator. So I spend a lot of time expressing myself through my writing, and I love to get out and about and do creative things in the community. Like I said, I love being in nature. I'm also a healer and a mentor and a traveler. So I spent a lot of my life traveling, and I'm very curious about the cultures and exploring life and seeking truth, and I guess stepping out of the conventional ways of living. I'm a big believer in following your own path and your own life journey. And for me, that's been a big process, a big journey to get to where I am today. My whole life has expanded in such a huge way, and I feel that I'm finally able to step into my power, be who I am, and take those leaps of faith and that courage of sharing myself and my story with the world to help others.
There's a lot to unpack there, and so many questions are coming up, and you've had such an interesting journey. You're a creator, a writer, an energy healer. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So let's talk energy healing. And can you tell us what it is and why it's important?
Yeah, sure. So everything is energy. Everything that exists in the universe is connected by energy, and it vibrates at its own frequency. So our thoughts, our words, desires, our choices and beliefs, they're all energy. And so everything is manifesting constantly into your reality. What vibrates in your energy field is demonstrated in your life. So one of my favorite quotes is from Einstein, and it's, "Energy is everything. Match the frequency of the reality you want, and you cannot help but get that reality. It can be no other way. This is philosophy, not physics." So I found that to be such a powerful piece of information, and it's the truth, but it took me a long time to be able to embody that as the truth. You can hear it as words, but to actually feel that and incorporate that into your life and shift your life so that you can work in a positive way with energy. So I think it's really important to understand that, and the law of attraction, that like attracts like, positive attracts positive, and negative attracts negative. So I think really we can all work. We all have the ability to work with energy because everything is energy, and we can all be healers of our own story and our own life. But it's just grasping a deep understanding of this. So when you start taking responsibility for your energy and what you're projecting, is when you can start healing yourself, and you'll start attracting the right people and opportunities and situations into your life. So basically, to me, energy healing means to clean up your energy, to shift these blocks, the negative beliefs, the stories, the traumas, and it goes into also ancestral trauma, past life trauma. So it's a huge journey, and it takes a lifetime, and I'm still uncovering all of this, and it takes a lot of dedication, and often it takes support from others. So I've worked with a lot of healers through my life, because a lot of the stuff is quite big and it's hard to shift, and we don't always understand or know what we're carrying. So yeah, the process of energy healing is, to me, is shifting energy blockages, connecting with spirit, and like I said, releasing trauma. And it's empowering you to feel whole in yourself.
Gosh, there's just so much stuff I want to ask you now. It's crazy. So first, can you explain, when you say healers, what types of healers have you met with? And then you also mentioned universal energy. And can you explain to our listeners what that is?
Okay. So, yeah, the type of healers I've met with are all kinds of healers. I've met with clairvoyance. I've worked with Reiki. I work with Reiki healers. I've worked with shamans. That's kind of what I'm working with now, is soul, and it's called shamanism, but it is very much soul healing. So bringing back soul parts, working with past lives, inner child work, releasing trauma. So to me, this has been the most profound healing system that has brought the biggest shifts in my life. I love Reiki, and I do that for relaxation. Like, I'll use hand placements on, say, my chest if I'm feeling anxious, and I'll just breathe the energy in and out through my hands and to calm myself. But when it comes to releasing blockages and things trapped, because we can walk around with so much trapped and blocked and in our energy. So to do that soul healing is the main energy work that I like to work with now.
Can you describe universal energy for us?
Energy is everything. Every single thing in the universe is made of energy. So everything is connected in the universe by energy.
I think you had mentioned like using universal energy to heal with your hands, maybe in Reiki. Was that how you referred to it?
Yeah.
And so how would you use it?
Basically with your intention. I think it always comes down to your intention and what and also where attention goes, energy flows. So it's all about attention. So if you have that intention to provide healing for someone, it's really kind of switching on and connecting and allowing that to channel through you. And anyone can channel this energy. It's just some people, we're not really taught how to do it. So once you understand how to tap into that, you are able to channel this healing through you. And it's about intention and wanting that healing and the belief behind it as well. You have to believe it.
That makes a lot of sense. What is an example of an energy blockage?
So energy blockage might be, say, for example, so I had a fear my whole life of being trapped. I just felt like I always had to have an escape plan or something in life. I didn't understand why, but I always felt that I was going to be trapped and stuck. And this was such a fear, and it came across a whole range of my life. Like, it covered a whole area, everything. It influenced everything. So I worked with a healer, and she saw that, I mean, this can sound a bit out there for some people, but I've seen this releasing in my life. But she went into a past life, and where a soul part was trapped in a fire. And so I had this feeling of constantly being trapped in this life, and just feeling that intense fear, but not understanding why, and why was this fear so intense. It didn't seem valid in this life to me. Mm-hmm. But when that was released, the freedom I felt, it wasn't there anymore. The beliefs that I kept reinforcing about I'm going to be trapped, and it was even the fact that I'll be, when I would travel, that I wouldn't be able to travel again, or I'd be somewhere and I'd get stuck, or my car was going to break down, or I would be, I don't know, there's so many examples. But it released that block for me, and it was able to I was able to invite more positive things into my life because I no longer had that limiting belief and blockage there anymore. Does that make sense?
Wonderful. Yes. So a blockage is anything that's in your energy that basically keeps you from moving forward in life, whether it's from this life or a past life?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
And it could be from childhood trauma. It can be related to so many things.
And when you say soul part, what is that referring to?
So basically we are whole. We are, we are an energy body. And if you suffer trauma in your life, parts of you will leave. Kind of, if you suffer trauma, you would dissociate to protect yourself. So you may not remember the trauma that has happened to you, but your body will remember. And these soul parts don't feel safe to be in this body because of the trauma you've suffered. So you may still be, because I was someone who was very anxious and full of a lot of fear, I was constantly in fight and flight mode. So these parts of me, I wasn't whole. So these parts of me didn't feel safe to be there.
Okay.
By doing this work, you clear those blockages, and then those parts feel safe to return to you and to bring that wholeness back to you.
Wonderful. Okay, thank you for that explanation there. That's very helpful. Does everyone need energy healing, or is it just people who have suffered trauma, or how would you know if you need it?
Okay, I feel that personally, I feel that, some people have been through more than others. Some people have been here many more times than others, if you're looking at past life perspective. So some people are more sensitive. I'm a highly sensitive person, but I do believe in the form of what you want to manifest and create in your life. Most of us, if not all of us, have blockages and limitations. So I think sometimes people see energy healing as this, airy fairy, like that. They don't understand how the importance of understanding your energetic health. And to me, that is the work I'm trying to do, to make people understand that your energetic health embodies everything. So it has everything to do with the way you live your life, and it's just as important for your physical health. So some people may need a lot deeper healing. Some people may be able to work with this themselves. It just depends on where you're at and what you need. But I definitely think everyone should learn to understand energy and their vibration and look at what you're attracting into your life and what's being shown to you. So yeah, I feel like it definitely would benefit everyone.
That makes a lot of sense. We've talked a lot about energy healing, but let's back up a little bit to explore your evolution and own discovery of energy healing and healing in your life. Mm-hmm. I know you've mentioned that you evolved to where you are today a lot through writing, and that was your foundation. So I imagine that was part of it. But can you tell us what were the steps of healing you've been through before you got to energy healing?
I think the biggest shift for me was when I started to learn to trust in myself, when I started to tap into my intuition instead of being influenced by others, because I spent most of my life, teens, 20s, early 20s, being influenced by other people and listening to what they thought was best instead of what I knew to be true in myself. So the biggest shift came from trusting in myself. And that came through so many things, through my travels, through exploring healing, through reading, researching, through the people I met, and just shifts in myself and my beliefs. So that was a really big shift for me and part of my healing process. And like you said, writing, I've always been a writer, and I didn't realize the power in this gift of writing. So for me, I'd always been writing my whole life, but I started to kind of trust in what I was channeling. So for me, writing really flows naturally. It's not something that I think about on a intellectual level. It's almost it's a channeling, and it flows through, and it's a real form of healing for me because my head is so busy. I have so many thoughts, and because I'm an anxious person, well, not so much anymore because of the work I've done, but writing is a form of healing and connecting with spirit and channeling. So it allows me to express who I am on paper, and I found it really hard to speak about who I was. So writing was what was comfortable for me. Yeah, it really is a form of healing because I'm channeling myself and my true nature through writing.
Why did you have to go through these healing processes? What happened? I know you said you were a very sensitive child. You had a lot of fear. You had some past life blockages going on. But was there anything else?
You know, I believe that I am an old soul, and that I came into this world carrying a lot of grief and shame and fear, and I felt so much. So to me, this controlled my whole life. Like the underlying pain was always there. No matter what I did, I couldn't escape it. Mm-hmm. And it was so many things contributing to that. But I think for me, I was really scared of being seen in the world. I had so much fear and anxiety. I tried to ignore it for a long time. I tried to run away from it, but in a way, anxiety was my driving force because I was terrified to take action, but I guess I was more terrified of not, and just settling for a life that I felt I wasn't making a difference. So even though it was hard, I began just learning to trust myself. And I think that true healing starts when you begin to find that courage to take action.
Would you say that anxiety in and of itself creates trauma?
I think anxiety is a symptom of trauma because you're always in this kind of survival mode.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then as far as depression goes, you mentioned that earlier. Do you think that is a symptom of denying yourself who you really should be? Yeah, absolutely. I think that is a huge, one of the main factors, because we're trying to be who society thinks we should be, or family thinks we should be, or this image of perfection who we should be. Yes. And
that's not who we are. So yeah, we're striving for something that's impossible, and we're always going to fall short. So yeah, until you begin to accept yourself and forgive yourself as well for your past, then depression and anxiety are going to most likely play a big part in your life, which they did for me.
Are those gone now?
I wouldn't say they're gone. I would say depression, I used to have, weeks, months where I would find it hard to get out of bed. I wouldn't be motivated. I had terrible beliefs about myself. That's gone. I still get anxious. I still have fear, because I think that's normal, and I choose to challenge myself, and I choose to I think you have fear and anxiety in order to grow. But in terms of who I was even a year ago to now, I really feel like I won't allow myself to get back to that point of depression, because I have so many things in place to support me, and I'm so aware of when my energy shifts and when it drops, and when I need to take that time to go inwards for self-care, or take a step back, or have some quiet time. I know now, I know myself, and I know what I need to do. Whereas before, I guess, like you said, I didn't. The struggle to not know yourself would bring that on and not know my needs.
Gotcha. How did you get to a point where you were at your lowest? You were in London?
Yeah, I mean, there were a few. London was a point where I was just drinking and partying and just very reckless, when I was stuck with no other option but to face myself and to stop running. Mm-hmm. And I had to surrender. What else is there to do? Like this, I can keep running and I can keep running from the pain, but I realized that there was this huge fear around it, but I learned to just start to sit with it. And I learned to, and this was with the help of, I was on medication at the time. I had counselors and healers. I had women's circles. I had a huge support. It wasn't just me going, okay, I can do this on my own. Mm-hmm. I definitely recommend to have support around you, but I just knew that I had to stop running. So yeah, I learned to kind of sit with what was coming up. And when you start to sit with these thoughts and these fears, you realize that they are just thoughts and beliefs. Mm-hmm. They don't actually have any power. It's just you put the power into them. So you can choose to believe them or not. So this was a big wake-up call for me to realize that I had a choice in what I believed about myself. And that started to create a big shift in my life.
Awesome. And then we've sort of come back to connect with the whole topic of setting your intentions and putting energy into the thoughts that you want to be in your life.
Yeah, exactly.
Great. Awesome. So that is a perfect transition into the fact that you have a business. You're online. It's a blog, and it's where you're based with your healing services. Is that right? Called Story Bones?
Yeah.
Okay. And so through your work with Story Bones, you discussed the idea that we're all influenced by the stories we believe about ourselves, and that these stories shape our lives. And you've mentioned some of that. Can you tell us more about that and some of the stories that have influenced your life and how you've learned to challenge them?
As humans, I believe, we are all storytellers, and we're born into a story, and that's created by the world around us. And it's influenced by so much, environmental, social, cultural. So the moment we're born, we're influenced by stories about who we're supposed to be and where we fit in, and, what's right, what's wrong, all of that stuff. So before we know it, we've taken on all these stories and we reinforce them daily. And this is what forms our belief system. And this is the belief that we have about ourselves and the world around us. And like I said, this is because of energy, this is then reflected into the life around us. This is what we see in our everyday life. So often these stories, they don't even belong to us. We've just accepted them as our own. And they can come through ancestral, they can be from past lives, they can be other people's beliefs, it can be something that's happened to you, like a trauma. Mm-hmm. So we actually take them on as our truth, and then we wonder why, why can't I express myself for who I am? Why am I afraid? Why am I holding myself back? It's because we're often even not even aware of the stories that we're telling ourselves, and they're just so weaved into our life. So, the stories we have are extremely powerful. And when you begin to realize that you have the power to change your story, that's when things start to shift. So when we believe our story, this is all to do with energy as well. We're putting our energy into it, giving it power, and that power is building, and then it's your reality. So when you stop giving a story energy, it loses its power. So for me, I had all kinds of negative beliefs about myself, that I played the victim card for a lot of my life. I felt like life was against me, and why is this happening to me, and all that kind of stuff. And of course life was showing me these examples, and And I was in this pattern, and it would play out especially in relationships. And it was a big problem for me that I would expect my partner to make me happy and you know, play the victim if they didn't live up to these expectations. We place so many expectations on others and externally. So that was one. And you know, and there's always kind of an underlying story under every situation. And the victim story and the I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough. I would self-sabotage in my life a lot. But underneath that, I was saying, I'm not worthy of love. I'm not deserving. So, yeah, so it was when I started to see what actually was playing underneath, it's very confronting to think, okay, so that's what I think about myself. But really, you have to start taking responsibility for the stories in your life, and you have to stop blaming everything externally for what you're experiencing, because when you can identify the stories, check in with what your beliefs are, pay attention to what you're attracting into your life, and then challenge the story and decide to change it, then you really take back your power and you stop being a victim of life. But obviously, you know, it takes patience and it takes time. So these stories you may have been carrying, you know, I'm 33, so maybe I'm carrying this story for that whole time. It's not just going to be overnight that I now think this new story. It takes time and it takes patience and belief in your new story. You have to feel your new story. You have to put energy into that and really feel it to transform that.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Thank you for that. Is it easy to take on stories that aren't our own because we're all connected?
Yeah, I think so. And because we're not taught how to really tune in and listen to what's right for us, we just assume maybe that if we listen to someone else or we look for things externally, then that's going to be the answer to our problems.
So for someone who's never been taught how to tune into their own truth, how would you tell someone to do that? How would they do that?
So our mind is very busy all the time. So you've got all these thoughts going around and around your head, and they're really busy and loud and overpowering. But when you begin to listen into your internal voice, it's very quiet. So it's almost like a whisper, and it's not forceful. It's not yelling at you like anxiety is, like, you need to do this and you need to do this now, or this something bad's going to happen to you. It's not like that. So it takes really time and patience to strengthen that voice and to allow it to come through. So it is definitely a process, and it takes time. It's not an overnight you'll just know what to do. But I would say spend some time each day and just try to spend some quiet time each day and try to tune into yourself. And just, you could start simply by asking yourself, what do I need today? Just listen to it, you know, like start doing these things and start responding. And the more you start to listen, the easier it will become to hear, and the more you will stop feeling that you've got to always go externally for answers or be ruled by this anxious, overpowering voice. You really have to start to honor yourself and get to know yourself, I feel.
And so you've done this. You've talked about the processes you've gone through to tune into yourself. So who are you as a person internally? What is your truth when the anxiety is not talking?
I'm a very sensitive person, and for a long time I thought that's really bad to be sensitive, and it means I'm weak, and I saw it as a very much a weakness, but I actually see it now as a gift, because I'm able to feel things on a deep level. I'm able to hear that inner voice. I hear the voice of spirit. I'm able to pick that up because of my sensitivity. So I'm definitely really sensitive. I'm a deep thinker. I'm very much, I want to find the answers to things. I want to understand things. And I have to do it in my own way, because it's not always the way that you're supposed to learn or you're told. I just have to go with what works for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, actually, no, I'm a very, when anxiety is not around, I'm actually I have a very calm energy, and when I'm anxious, my energy is frenetic and it's not calm. But I'm definitely, I feel very calm, a calmness when I'm just trusting myself and being true to myself.
We talked about Story Bones a little bit earlier. So can you tell us, what is Story Bones all about, and what do you offer to those seeking healing?
Story Bones it's constantly evolving. So I started it a year ago, and it was a blog, and it was a way to get my messages into the world, and a way to take that leap of faith and feel the courage to share my writing. So it's all about really empowering people, and I want to empower people on their unique self-healing journey, because everyone's journey is different, and we're all taking different paths. Different things work for different people. So I really aim to provide resources to help people to kind of recreate their life and align themselves with their true purpose, who they really are, who they really are, and who they know that person inside them who they want to be, but maybe there's a lot of fear and anxiety there. So I talk a lot about working through challenging old stories and breaking self-limiting beliefs and painful patterns, and also through holistic and spiritual approach. So like exploring energy healing and spiritual growth, looking at trauma and ancestral healing, as well as challenging mental health from a holistic point of view, and overcoming fears. So that's some of the topics I touch on. But it's important for me because everything I share is my own lived experience. So I want people to know that I get it and that I've been there. And I want people to know that we're all in this together. So it's not something you don't have to go it alone. There's a lot of help out there. So I want to be part of offering those services and help. So yeah, this year I'm really expanding. So I'm really excited. I'm working to put together some online courses and webinars on many of the topics in my blog. And then I will be finishing my training in soul healing. So I'm looking to offer energetic health mentoring and soul healing, which can be done. It's distant healing. So that will be really cool. So it's very exciting, and it's always evolving. So yeah, stay tuned for that.
Yeah, awesome. Is soul healing the same thing as energy healing, or is it a little different?
Yeah. This is what I was touching on before, with working with inner child work, ancestral, trauma healing, past lives. I guess it's in a way the kind of shaman work, which is trying to bring you back to feeling whole and complete.
Gotcha.
So that's, yeah.
Where can listeners find you and Story Bones?
So if you go online, you can find my website at storybonesonline.com, and you can sign up to my free guide, which is called Master Your Story, Transform Your Life. And I'm also sending out fortnightly email updates and information, and also on social media. So I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, and Twitter. So if you'd like to follow me on there as well.
Awesome. And all of those links will be on our show notes, listeners, so you can go over there and find those. And before I let you go, I have a couple more questions for you.
Mm-hmm.
Can someone begin to find their life path or purpose before they've started healing? Or should they start healing and then they would be able to discover their life path or purpose? Or how would you suggest they find what their purpose is?
Well, to me, I think the two definitely go hand in hand. So our journey through life is a constant process of healing and evolving. So we're constantly changing and growing all the time. So who you were even last year to who you are this year is a different person. Who you were even a day ago to today is a different person. So you're constantly evolving, you're constantly healing and going through processes, maybe whether you're aware of it or not. So for me, when I started to discover my purpose, it was there all along. Like, I was always a writer and a healer, but I wasn't honoring that. I didn't see that in myself. So the most important thing you can do is really get to know yourself. So what are your passions? Spend that time with yourself. What are your passions, your desires? What brings you joy? And what's your unique gifts that you can share with the world? Because I have a blog, yeah, a lot of people have a blog, but they're not me. They're not sharing my message. So you may be doing something similar to someone, but the way you do it is very different because it's you. You're showing yourself to the world. So yeah, you really have to learn to honor yourself first. I wanted to share this because this was really powerful for me. So one of my mentors, Shemaram Ibrahim, she runs Unveil the Feminine, which is a beautiful soulful women in business circle. She shared this information that came to her, a strong message that came through to her that really kind of changed her life. And it was, how can the world honor me, my gifts, and my work if I don't honor myself, my gifts, and my work? So before you can really share what your soul purpose is with the world and help others, I think you really need to know yourself and honor yourself and understand yourself. So yeah, just my piece of advice would be to start tuning into your needs and really honoring, listening to yourself. Do things that bring you joy, and you never know what can come of that. The universe will always be there to support you. You just have to allow it as well.
Yes. And do you have any other parting wisdom you can leave for our listeners?
Yeah, if you do have an idea or something you're passionate about, start doing it today. And even if you're not sure exactly what it is, but just start taking steps. And even if that is just starting to get to know yourself, and really don't be afraid to step up and do what feels right to you. Don't be afraid to speak your truth in the world. And I think for me, that's when the magic really started to happen in my life. So hopefully that will be of help to others.
Wonderful. Erin, you are a beautiful person. I was so happy to have you on the show and that you opened up and shared your story today, even the difficult parts. So just thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much, Brandy. It's my pleasure. So nice to chat with you.
So there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Tune in weekly at onbeinghumanpodcast.com for more soul-exposing explorations of what it means to be human. Until next week, love to you all.